Music is often referred to as a universal language, and I think this is largely because it's based off of universal patterns. In this video, I'm going to show you 10 types of patterns every producer should know. But first, I wanted to share some exciting news. Splice just launched a student discount. The Sounds Plus plan is discounted to $8.99 monthly, and you get 2 free Eventide plugins, Blackhole and Crystals. These are incredible plugins for sound design. And finally, if you sign up by September 12th, you're automatically entered into an incredible sweepstakes. There are over $30,000 worth of prizes. All right, so the first type of pattern I think y'all should know about are what I consider asymmetrical rhythms. A 4 on the floor pattern is a great example of a symmetrical pattern. Listen to the energy as you add some asymmetry. Another way you can look at asymmetry is combining even and odd spacings of beats. I feel like you start to get really effective grooves when you balance symmetry and asymmetry. Listen to how the open hi-hats and kick interact in this song by Fred Again and Swedish House Mafia. Here I've got a work in progress where I have a standard 8th note hi-hat pattern. As soon as I start to add some asymmetry to the hi-hat pattern, you get a completely different feel. So asymmetrical rhythms can add a lot of energy and bounce to your grooves. Another way you can do this is with polyrhythms. A polyrhythm is when 2 or more rhythmic feelings are stacked upon each other. In this case, I have a 3/2 polyrhythm where I have 3 evenly spaced hi-hats over 2 evenly spaced kicks. Here's a melody that has a 5/2 polyrhythm. When it comes to making polyrhythms, it's good to know how your DAW handles odd subdivisions of the grid. In this case, I switched Logic to quantize to quintuplets, which allowed me to create this off-kilter groove. You might be surprised at the amount of polyrhythms that exist in the music you listen to. One of my favorite examples is Lateralis by Tool, which has a 4/3 feeling at the end. There are 4 vocal syllables for every 3 drum hits. It creates an amazing energy at the end of the song. An easy way to set up a polyrhythm is to make a bass pattern in groupings of 3/16 notes. Put this over any kind of standard drum pattern in common time, and you'll have a cool polyrhythmic feeling. As you can hear, polyrhythms are really useful for changing the feel of a piece of music. Another way you can do this that's often overlooked is by using velocity patterns. Velocity will affect the loudness and timbre of the sound. There's basic patterns like alternating and using asymmetry. And while velocity patterns are excellent for drums, you can really use them on any instrument. Here I have them on sample chops. I'm using lower velocity sample chops to establish little grace notes. Now, to establish really unique feelings in your rhythms, you need to start looking into swing patterns. In music, swing refers to interpreting 8th notes more like triplets, but can be broadly applied as any rhythm that gets off the grid. One of the most famous producers known for their swing was J Dilla. Each DAW is going to have a slightly different workflow to implement swing and groove. For example, in Ableton Live, you can search swing in the browser, then select the groove file and drop it on your clip. One of the best ways you can add swing to your beats is actually to play your patterns in and then quantize it to your liking. Right now I've got my MPC 1 Plus with 4 sample slots loaded. That's a kick, snare, hat, and open hat. Now I'm going to use this new feature on Splice called Create to make a custom resample. Slow that down a little bit. So I'm going to save this. Now I can export the stems and bring it into my project. Then I can drag the stems directly into Cubase. And if you're just starting out of this, one thing I'd recommend is just record one measure and then fine tune the groove within that measure, then duplicate the rest. Hit record. See, there's a double kick there, take one away. And this is where you can really fine tune the groove. If you were too early or too late, you can adjust it right here. Also, we need some velocity variation for sure on these hi-hats. It's also really effective to put swing on your bass lines, especially in house music. I've got this nice and tight serum bass pluck, and I've manually moved the notes off the grid to give it a swing feeling. So I've layered that with a cool washed out vocal from Splice, and I've automated crystals on and off to give it even more sparkle. And as a producer, you can even swing automation effects. For this sound, I'm using Bitwig's powerful modulation system, and I'm using the curve modulator to create a custom sidechain feeling. It's got its own little swing to it. So all of these concepts we've covered so far can be applied to melodies and harmonies. Now I'd like to take a look at more melodic and harmonic specific patterns. The first type of melodic pattern you should know is commonly referred to as contour. When one single note moves to another, it can really only go up, down, or stay the same. If the note only travels a semitone or two, that's considered a step, whereas bigger jumps are considered leaps. Another important aspect of contour is the overall range of the melody, as well as looking for any repetitive structures or motifs. I think a producer that's mastered the art of contour is Flume. The melody line in the middle of Let You Know is really beautiful. The best way to learn any type of pattern is to transcribe it. This melody has a wonderful balance of steps and leaps. It also covers a wide frequency range, giving it a real sense of movement and travel. When you transcribe a pattern, you're then able to implement the characteristics on your own patterns. I can't recommend it enough. Contour patterns will really help you think differently about melodies. This next type of pattern you can actually use for your melodies, and that's figured arpeggios. An arpeggio is a type of broken chord where each note is played individually. The figured part of the arpeggio is this blue section, which actually breaks out of the chord for a moment. Figured arpeggios can be great for ambient melodies, especially if you add effects processing. And it's also really nice to add a slower moving melody beneath the figured arpeggio. Here I've got this bell sound running through this epic patch in Blackhole. It creates a nice airy bed for the higher octave melody. The next type of pattern can really be great for tension and release, and that is counterpoint. Counterpoint is the art of combining multiple melodic lines to create harmonically rich music. These lines will generally have contrasting melodic and rhythmic contour. One of the masters of counterpoint was Bach. His invention number 13 in A minor is a perfect illustration of counterpoint. When looking at the MIDI pattern, you can really see the variations in contrast. Now, if you start adding chords or any kind of synchronized harmony, it's no longer a true counterpoint. However, the general idea of contrasting rhythms and contour is very applicable in today's music. Listen to the counterpoint in the vocals in Paranoid Android by Radiohead. So a workflow I cannot recommend enough is using an app called Fugue Machine. It's the world's first multi-playhead piano roll. The notes on the piano roll play back at 4 different speeds, and you can customize useful parameters for each playhead. And one of the coolest parts is that you can send MIDI to your DAW. Right now I have it controlling BA1. Combining this and Splice Bridge, you can really get a great idea before you put pen to paper. So with counterpoint, we're already in the realm of harmony. There are a lot of types of patterns when it comes to chords, but one I wanted to focus on was tertiary harmony, which are essentially harmonic structures built out of major or minor thirds. If you put in any note in your piano roll and start stacking up notes every 3 or 4 semitones apart, you'll be creating major or minor triads, 7th chords, and extended chords. FL Studio has an amazing stamp feature which allows you to single click in chords. And if you take advantage of the new scale snap feature in the piano roll, all the notes you stamp in will be in key, which is a really powerful workflow. So as you can see, the notes were automatically reordered, which is what's known as an inversion, another very important type of pattern. Inversions are very important for creating contour and harmonic lines. I'm going to use Ableton's scale feature to help me put in a simple chord progression. Once I know I'm only using scale notes in the piano roll, I can form scales by skipping every other note, and then option drag them to different root notes. If you repeat the same root position movement, your chord progression can get very boring very quickly. I'm going to try to move some of the lower notes up on the first half, and the upper notes down on the second half. Then I'm going to duplicate this pattern and move the whole first chord an octave down. Now I'm going to add some more inversions to create a contour to the whole chord progression. This will sound much more musical than repeating the same structures over and over again. So inversions can really change the character of a chord or make or break a chord progression, but one of the most important things to consider is harmonic rhythm. There are a lot of types of harmonic rhythms, but a simple one is going full circle and just adding asymmetry to the chord progression. A lot of times when you put in chords, you put the notes on the same beat. This is considered a block chord. A really cool way to create harmonic rhythm is to put part of the chord on a different beat. Well, I hope you found this video to be informative, and hopefully you think about patterns in different ways now. I have all the links to the sounds and plugins in the description, and I hope you all stay inspired, stay creative. I'll catch you on the next one.